I am your other co-host, Vicki Tsai, and today we are continuing our discussion about social media, and we're going to be talking more about the emotional side of things today.
Oh, that's where you come in, Vicki. You're really good at that kind of stuff.
Thank you. I try. I think that emotions are a very important thing to take into account when discussing social media, just because like it's very easy to sort of like attach perhaps like your self-worth or like feelings to whatever kind of performance or activity that you may have on social media. And that can be a really tough place to be in. And I do feel like that's something that's important that we need to talk about. So let's do that today.
Okay.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I think that's really good. There's that thing I read like a while back where it's like social media, like getting like new followers and notifications is kind of like it like sends endorphins to you. Like you get like a little kick out of it, and like it's seriously addictive. And like I mean, I know I felt that like whenever I see that like or new follow, I'm like, oh yes, I feel validated. I feel happy. People like me. And then if I post something new, then like I'll keep like refreshing and be like, okay, where are the notes? Where are the notes?
Yeah, no, it's really good that you bring that up because I mean, like, it has been shown. I mean, like, think about it. The purpose of social media is to keep you on their website, right? So they're going to do anything that they can to have you stay on for as long as possible.
Right.
And oftentimes that shows up in the form of, you know, like all those like noises on your phone or like the notifications that pop up, you know, the numbers and things like that. It really is a way to get you to keep using their platform. So like it makes sense that like you describe feelings of like, oh, it's like addicting. It's like, yeah, it was designed to be that way.
That kind of like falls into like the algorithm talk we were talking about last week, because like another thing I remembered is that on Instagram, like when you post something, it doesn't immediately show if someone liked it. Like it will kind of like hold it back for you so that you purposely stay on the app and like keep refreshing to see if like someone likes it. So like if you actually go into the post, then you'll see it, but otherwise like it doesn't show up in your notification feed until like it feels you're ready. Which is such an evil thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds kind of like strange, but like honestly that's how it was like sort of like manufactured. And if you know you like feel that sort of pull to social media, it's not that you're like weird or anything like that. It's just, you know, how they made it to engage with the human brain. So like if you are feeling like you're addicted to it, it's like then that means that they've done their job properly.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel it's really important that we do talk about this because a lot of like I'm pretty sure like everyone has felt this way, and like as long as we're more open about it, then like you become more aware of the issue and also feel like, okay, I'm not alone in this, and like we can all kind of work together and discuss it and like share our feelings and
Oh, I love it. I love how you said that.
group circle. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, just like knowing that everybody goes through these kind of feelings exactly as you had said, and that just because you feel a certain way, it doesn't mean that you're like bad or like evil or anything. It's just kind of like, you know what, it happens, but like we can find ways to deal with it and move on and, you know, be better, right? So like that's what we're here to talk about today. I think a really good place to start off this conversation is to talk about sort of like the very surface level layer of things, which is like the age-old question of, do followers, likes, and numbers define you?
Exactly.
You know, what's sort of your take on that?
Okay, so my hot take is that they don't matter. I'm sorry to get controversial, guys, but like it just doesn't matter. I'm prepared to get like hate mail now, but yeah, I mean like at the end of the day, like it really is just like a number. I mean like yes, it does feel nice, and like a lot of those like followers and like, are your friends and everything. So like there's that, but like the idea of like, oh, okay, I'm not going to be a great artist unless I have like this many likes on a post or this many followers. Like if you're looking at someone's portfolio, you're not wondering like, I wonder how many followers this guy has. Like your employer is not going to be like checking through your Twitter and like being like, oh, 2,000 followers, that's I'm sorry, I can't hire this guy.
Yeah, chump change. can't
What a
can't work with
loser.
this. Yeah, no. I really good points that you bring up. I mean, like I agree with you. I really don't think that they define you. And like you said, like sure, it feels nice, but I think it can become trouble when you sort of like equate your value
Hmm.
with those numbers because that's just simply not true, right? I mean, like you have plenty of wonderful people, who work in this industry and they do really well for themselves and they're doing what they want to do, but they may not necessarily have like a social media presence
Hmm.
even or
Yeah.
like tons of followers on social media, but like that doesn't matter because like those two things are almost sort of like I can't think of the exact term right now, but like I do think that they are separate.
Hmm.
And on the flip side of that, just because you have a lot of followers or your posts get a lot of notes doesn't necessarily mean that like you are the best,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
You know,
Get off
I,
your high horse, Vicky. You're nothing. You think
what?
you're all that.
Yes, drag me. It's true. I mean, like, yeah, just like, just no. Um, not to mention that when it comes to things like online popularity, there's so many things
There
that
are a lot of
affect
factors that go into it.
exactly, and how like the idea that like two people, right, they can
Mhm.
do the exact same thing, right, the exact same sort of like activity, posting or whatever the heck, and they could actually have like very, very different results.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
it's not like just because you follow a certain path that it will like determine like social media
Mhm.
success or anything. And also
Exactly.
not to say that that is like the ultimate goal.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, like I've seen like a lot of people on Instagram who are like they're amazing artists and like they have like under 1,000 followers and like oh I
Right.
wish more people saw their work, but like it's like followers like don't mean anything. Whereas like there are people who have like over 100,000 and they basically just trace Disney princesses. It's
Oh gosh, yeah, yeah.
um your talent doesn't really um like yeah followers don't really matter.
I don't know. It's kind of like a tricky subject to like articulate just
Hmm.
because it's like a lot of the way that people see success on social media is through numbers.
Yes.
So it's difficult to say like it doesn't matter because like to some level it
Yeah.
does,
Mhm.
right? I don't think what we're trying to say is that like you shouldn't care about it at all. Like obviously it matters and we're not going to like sugarcoat that.
Yeah.
Like people pay attention to numbers. Like
Hmm.
it's only natural. It's sort of like that very like first contact, first
Hmm.
impression kind of
Yeah.
thing. But
But
I
it's
think it's
not
also
everything.
it's not everything, and it's also important to acknowledge that like just because you reach a certain milestone or goal or number means that like everything is like fine, like you don't have
Hmm.
any more problems or
Yeah.
like all of your issues are solved. It's like okay, yeah, you reach that number and then like you're just like okay.
Yeah. Now on to the
I'm
next
still
goal.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, on to the next one almost sometimes. And it's like, is it ever enough? Like, when can it ever be enough?
Hmm.
Like, what number is the number, right?
Hmm. Yeah. I guarantee that I don't feel any more different than I was at like us when I was like first started out on social media to like where I am. Like there I have had no character growth whatsoever. I'm just like the same trash person. Like there's no
In your
change.
case, yeah, in your case, it has had zero effect.
In fact, maybe even like a worse effect.
No! Well, I think you're.
Thank you. um,
So, we've talked a lot about like numbers, right?
mhm,
And I think the overarching sort of like discussion and topic that this plays into then is like, why do the numbers matter then?
mhm,
Like, why does it affect how we feel?
mhm,
And I would like to suggest that it makes us feel a certain way when we look at numbers because we tend to compare ourselves
mhm.
to other people
Yes.
and whatever, and we make their numbers mean something
Mhm,
sometimes, right? And our numbers mean something
mhm.
else sometimes.
Which is not good, you guys. I mean, like, I mean, it goes the same as like when you're comparing your own artwork to like other people. It's like you should never compare yourself to other people's growth. Like the main concern should always be like, am I? you should always compare yourself to like a past version of yourself. Like
Mhm.
have you
Yeah.
grown in the past year? Do you feel like your art has gotten better? You don't compare yourself to like some other guy who like may be really talented, but like that's his problem. That's like his own journey. Like you should be concentrating on yourself. Because
Absolutely.
everyone's is different. Like people progress at different speeds. Some people start earlier, some people start later. Some people have like some hardships, like there are some obstacles that are in the way, and like that they have to overcome. So like yeah, just concentrate on yourself, and that goes to set for that is for like your drawing skills, but that also applies to social media as well. Like don't compare your self-worth to like someone else's account and like their artwork, because that's like that's you shouldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, yeah, totally great points. And, entirely at the same time, it's like, but we get it though, right? Like, we understand why you would feel jealous,
Mm-hmm.
And like, I will admit I have had issues with jealousy, and I will also admit that I still have issues
Mm-hmm.
with jealousy. I don't think that it's a feeling that can ever completely go away,
Mm-hmm.
like
It's a very
entirely.
natural feeling.
It is a very natural feeling, yeah. And I think for a really long time, my issue was that I would like see it as a character flaw
Mm-hmm.
almost, and like every time that feeling came up, I would just be like, I'm the worst person. Like, how could I ever feel this way, about somebody else? Like 1,000 years in dungeon for me, like kind of attitude toward myself. But we need to acknowledge that like feelings of jealousy are very natural and like
Mm-hmm.
everybody feels it. If you don't feel it about art, maybe you feel it about something else, right?
Mm-hmm.
And okay, I understand that jealousy and envy are two different things, and we're probably talking more about envy. Regardless, it's a very natural feeling to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like Anoosha, if you feel comfortable, would you, say that you have had sort of like experiences with jealousy or envy in the
What if I
past?
said no? Like the podcast
Ooh,
would just stop
no, no, no!
if
I
I
would
didn't
be
say
like, "What's your
anything.
secret?"
No, no, of course I've had like problems with like jealous and just feeling insecure about myself. Vicky, I've been jealous of you. Like it's oh.
Wait, wait. I remember. Okay, this is reminding me of a conversation that we had where in the past I was like, Anusha, I'm jealous of you.
Wait, no, I was jealous of you first.
You see this? It's like, well, first of all, it just like everybody feels it, and second of all, it's just like you can be as awesome as Anusha. You can. I think Anusha is like a perfect human being. I love Anusha. Okay, you can be as awesome as Anusha, and like you can still, feel those feelings, right?
Hmm.
It's
Yeah,
just.
and I that was like kind of a stepping point in our friendship where like we kind of admitted like to each other like, hey, you know what, like I love you, I love your art, but like I honestly like sometimes I get a little bit insecure, like I feel kind of jealous by you sometimes, and like that like admitting that to each other, and like we kind of like we're like, oh, we have like these same feelings, and like it kind of like we're like, okay,
Breaks
like
down that. Oh,
it,
yeah.
we kind of accepted it, and like we were like, okay, this is something that just people feel, and like it's not going to hold us back, it's not going to ruin our friendship or anything, it's just kind of like made it even stronger. And I think like if people were to do that a bit more, just be a bit more open about it, it would work out better for everyone.
Absolutely. No, yeah, I love what you said. And it's just like the first step is always acknowledging it, right? Sort of
Mm-hmm.
like admitting to it. And then, like, the second step from there is just being like, you know what? So what if I feel this way,
Mm-hmm.
right? I can also choose to do something else
Exactly.
because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, we didn't want that to, come between us or to like
Mm-hmm.
disrupt the larger goals that we had, right? Like sort of like these bigger visions that we share, which is, to like help out other artists
Mm-hmm.
and to help out other women, through our
Yeah.
art and stuff like that. It's like those are the things that are genuinely important to us. And if we had let, like jealousy sort of like get in between that, then it's like why? Why would you let it lose why would you lose it to something like
Mm-hmm.
that, right?
Exactly.
It just doesn't seem worth it.
Yeah.
So like sometimes you have to like sort of step back and be like, I get that I feel this way, but is it really that important? Like on the
Mm-hmm.
list of, pyramid of things, is it like really that important?
So like I mean like the best thing you can do is just like instead of just like wallowing in your envy and whatever, it's like try to like be a bit more productive about it, or like try to just make something out of it. Like I always say, like being bitter, like bitterness has like made me so productive in things. I'll do things out of spite. If like someone tells me you can't do that, I'm like, no, I'll show you, and then I do it and I prove them wrong. So like, um, so because I've kind of been out of work for a while, and like I will admit to like whenever I see my friends, and I love my friends, but I see them like post like, oh, I got a new job, and I'm just like, I'm so happy for you, but I'm also really bitter. But like
Right,
I'm not
right.
gonna let that. I can't like just wallow in that. Instead, like I'm gonna use, instead of like using that energy for like being miserable, I'm gonna use that energy and like work on my portfolio and like get better and like kind of like push myself even more. So
Hmm.
like yeah, and like also I'm not gonna be like mean to my friends. Like I
Right,
still
right.
love them. I'm gonna support them and be like, yeah, I'm so proud of you. I'm like really happy for you. So that's what you should do.
No, yeah, that's a really good way, like to channel the energy and
Hmm.
like the mental thoughts in a different kind of way. And like, just because Anusha and I have, these thoughts of like jealousy or envy, it doesn't make us bad people. And it also doesn't make you, listener, a bad person
Hmm.
if you feel that way. It really matters, like what you turn that into and how you act, toward yourself, toward others, right? You want to in turn, like try to be kind and, really congratulate other people's successes. And at the same time, don't beat yourself up about feeling that way. Don't think like, oh, I'm like a terrible person, like I'm never going to be better than this. No, you will. It's okay. Let the feeling happen, just hold on to that feeling and then let it pass and then move on, make something better for yourself and for
Hmm.
others.
Exactly.
And like, yeah, but like, I understand like where these kind of feelings come from because like from a very young age, societally, we're all kind of like conditioned to rank ourselves in comparison to other people, right?
Hmm.
Like when you're in school, you have grades, and then, when you're in like sports or extracurriculars, you have like these different sort of positions and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And so I think it's only natural for us, kind of like to want to compare ourselves to other people, but you shouldn't let that like take you over or like control you, or you shouldn't give your power over to that feeling
Hmm.
completely.
Exactly. I also want to bring up that like um, when in the same form of like feeling insecure and like maybe a little bit jealous when like you're looking through other people's profiles and like seeing their success and whatever. When you're putting your stuff on social media, you're kind of posting a version of yourself that's usually a nicer version. Like it's
Mm-hmm.
um, you're gonna be posting photos of yourself where you're happy, and you're gonna be posting like all of the good achievements, and you're gonna be posting like all of your work, and like so when you're looking at other people's profiles and you think like, oh, okay, like their life is just so great,
Mm-hmm.
why am I like so depressed or whatever, it's like, yeah, but like you don't know what's going on behind the screen. Like you can't just like look at someone's online presence and like know who they are. Like that is just
Mm-hmm.
like a version of themselves that they are comfortable with putting forward. Like there's so much more that you just don't know, and like you shouldn't assume to know either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
um, and like also like when they put up a drawing in there and like you think, oh my god, like they made it look so great, like they post up the final drawing, but you don't know like all of the work that came before that, like the hundreds of
Mm-hmm.
like redos and like the discarded ones, and like
Mm-hmm.
like they put up like the final product because it's like the nice ones. So yeah,
Right.
you
Right.
shouldn't assume to know that like um I lost my train of thought, but Carrie, you go ahead,
Yeah.
Vicky.
Yeah. Just sort of how like other people don't have to like struggle through anything.
Hmm.
Like when you see their lists of success on social media, it's
Yeah.
like, oh well, they just like had that, one day.
Hmm.
And it's like, no, it's been years of work, and like just because people don't share that, and I'm not saying that like that is good or bad, but just because people don't doesn't mean their struggles, don't exist.
Hmm.
There's actually this really funny YouTuber. His name is Nathan Zed. I don't know if you've heard of him before, but he made this video recently that's called Succeed by 25 or Fail Forever. And
Hmm.
in this video, he addresses the exact thing that you were just talking about, which is like people tend to post things, that they're really happy about, or
Mm-hmm.
it's something that they've accomplished. And he's like, nobody is out here trying to post about their failures. Like, no one's like,
Yeah.
hey, just got evicted.
Mm-hmm.
Who else has never, had a place to live before? And it's just
Okay.
like, that's so true, like people naturally, they want to talk about the things that they're really enjoying, or the things that they want to share with other people that they're proud of. And so, like, social media has sort of become like a list of achievements
Mm-hmm.
in a way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important to be aware of that, if nothing else, because, like, you can't look at somebody else's life and then compare it to your own and just be like, oh, well, my life is just, I've never have any achievements, or like my life is constantly filled with shit or something like that. And it's like, you can't compare somebody's like all-time highlights to every part of your life,
Mm-hmm.
Because, like,
Exactly.
everything that's going on in your day to day, but you don't know everything that's going on in theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't put those things next to each other and be like, this is a fair comparison, because
Mm-hmm.
it's not.
Yeah. Also, thank you for bringing. Okay, so I haven't heard of Zach Red, but is that his name?
Nathan Zed.
Why?
I
I don't
love
know
it.
why I thought of Zach. I'm sorry.
It sounds really similar, to be fair.
Okay, names are all the same.
Yes.
But the succeed before you're 25 or die miserable or whatever it is. It's a pretty funny and kind of accurate point of like one of the issues of like social media is that like you're also constantly aware of like all of these wonderkins, these like genius
Mm.
babies, like 16 years old, and they're like, oh, hi guys, I'm kind of like the Leonardo DiCaprio of my time. No, not DiCaprio. What am I saying? Da Vinci. I'm just
Both.
all over the place today.
Both are valid.
Both are valid, but like yeah, but like I'm an amazing artist, and like I'm only 16, which like I congratulate you, child, but I also feel miserable now because I did not draw like that when I was your age. And like
Hmm.
that's like you kind of society kind of like really focuses on like people like that because like it's
Yeah.
they're
Hmm.
they're exceptions because like they're really rare, but like you are con they get a lot of attention because it's like, oh, like they're
Yep.
really talented and they're really young, but like you kind of like because that's mostly what you're seeing, you're like, oh, look at me, I'm an old lady and I haven't done anything with my life, which is not true. It's like
No, it's not. And no, that's a really good point that you bring up, because like it's also important to acknowledge the fact that, like, social media in general, it focuses on things that get clicks,
mm-hmm,
right? This is how news media outlets work. They purposely put up like exceptional things or like shocking things in order to get you to pay attention.
mm-hmm.
And so if a kid who's like 10 years old just invented like the best app ever that's going to save the entire world,
Yeah,
then like that's the thing that they're going to talk about, because
right.
it's like, oh, holy shit, that's like incredible,
Mm-hmm.
right? But like, it's
That doesn't
important to,
make you less valid
it
and your
doesn't exactly.
achievements.
It
And it,
no, it,
yeah.
yeah.
And again, like I mentioned before, like it again, compare yourself to your own achievements and like your own like your progress. And like if you are kind of get into the game a little bit later, that's totally fine. Like that's because like kids these days, like they have access to social media, they're like more, it's easier to get started earlier, but like people who
Hmm.
are older and like our age and like older than that, like it wasn't that accessible to us, so like it's perfectly natural that we're starting later. And like
Hmm.
it's don't beat yourself over it. Like it's the other thing about social media is that it's like very much a young kids game, that like you mostly see people your own age on it, and like you kind of
Hmm.
forget that like you see all these people and they're like in studios and whatever, but you forget like when you're in an actual studio, it's not, you don't see a lot of people your own age, it's mostly like older people. And like
Hmm.
the reason you don't see them is because they're not on social media, and you forget that like, oh yeah, this industry is mostly older people, and like
Hmm.
they may have started later, or like they're like yes, I mean, like my point is basically that like don't beat yourself up if like you're comparing yourself to like the younger kids, and like
Right, right. No, no, that's a totally important point, as well. Oh God, the leaf blower just started outside. Is that really disruptive?
Uh, is your window open?
No, it's not. He's just like right outside.
Okay. Okay. So, Vicky, you want to talk about something?
Yeah, I want to touch on this idea of the mentality of scarcity and how that sort of plays into jealousy. And so it's like this idea that if somebody else gets something, then that then means you don't get
Oh,
that thing,
yeah.
right? And I think that like is a huge issue when it comes to like breeding envy and jealousy, because the truth of the matter is that just because somebody else gets something, that doesn't mean that you can't also get that
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah.
If anything, I like to see it as an example of what is possible for what I can get,
Yeah.
right? So like let's say like Anoosha gets like a really awesome job, right?
Mm-hmm.
One way to look at it is be like, oh, like Anoosha got that job. That means I can't get that job anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, maybe you can't get that exact position in that exact company that,
Yeah.
she's working at, but that doesn't mean that you can't get a similar kind of job,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And so another way to look at it is like, wow, Anusha, was able to get this job. I wonder if it's possible for me also to find a job,
Right.
within this industry. And so it's this sort of like different way of looking at it, where it's like there are a lot of possibilities available to each one of us. And just because somebody else has this opportunity doesn't mean that it's not also available to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think because like one of the issues is that a lot of people have like this mentality of like, um, that because we are artists in like this industry, it has to be very competitive, and like all of the other artists around you are your competitors. Like, if like you're all like striving to get the same job, and like it's up to you to like make sure you push harder and like like crush them so you get
Mm-hmm.
it. But that's not the case because like it's while it is competitive, like it's not that bad, and like if you don't get that position, like it's fine. Like there are other ways to like define your success as well, and like the main thing is that like you're not gonna get anywhere if you are treating your fellow artists this way. Like the system
Mm-hmm.
should more be like you are helping each other out, because when you help someone, they're gonna help you in return.
And right, I do want to like say caveat though of like you shouldn't be helping other people just so they
Oh
can
yeah,
give you
that's true.
something in
That's true.
return. And I know that's not what you meant,
Mm-hmm.
but I just want to make that clear to
Yeah.
our listeners,
Mm-hmm.
because like it's sort of this idea that like overall we're in this together,
Yeah.
and like one person's success in a way is everybody's success, right?
Yes.
Because like if people are showing up, right, and they're doing really well in our field, then that like shows people outside of our field what we can accomplish,
Mm-hmm.
as a community. And that's something that's really powerful, and as well for people within the community, right? Something to look up to, something to aspire to, something to work toward. And
Mm-hmm.
that's huge, right? If
Yeah.
you understand that there are sort of like both horizontal and vertical possibilities for you within this field, and it's like then you will be able to push yourself further and stretch yourself out farther as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that is just a benefit for everybody, because if everybody's trying to contribute their best, then we all together we rise up.
Mm-hmm.
And
Exactly.
so that's something that's really significant. And you can also see um, you know abundance in that kind of way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Abundance for one person is abundance for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Exactly. Yeah, I'm glad you added that addendum to my
Mhm.
comment, because I really did not mean it that way. But like now that you
Right,
bring
right.
it up, like if you are only befriending other people and like kind of like talking to other people solely for your own benefit, like these they're gonna know. Like they can sense it a mile
Yeah.
away if you're just trying to use them, and like if you're being insincere about it, or like just like making friends solely so that you can get a job, or like don't do that. It's
No, yeah, no.
make friends because you want to make friends, and
Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's a really good way to put it. It's like if you want to make friends, then make friends. We're not saying that you like have to make friends and you have to like kiss people's asses. And no, that's not what we're saying. We are advocating to, for you to connect with the community in a meaningful way and to contribute the best that you can in order to like help yourself out, help others out, and to just like make the community more viable for everybody in it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. That's a good point.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, this sort of little dipping of the toes into this idea of like mentality of scarcity versus abundance.
I didn't know about this before, so thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, yeah, it's something that I've learned about recently, and it's really helped me sort of have like a perspective shift and to just like help me think about these things differently, right? Because
Hmm.
like I feel like oftentimes when people give advice when it comes to like, oh, how do I not feel jealous? The most common thing that I've learned or like read about is people saying like, oh, just like turn your jealousy into like motivation to like work and like make something really good. And it's like, okay, but that's not all of it. That's one part of it, right? And that's like
Hmm.
one way to approach it. But there's so many other things that need to be addressed as well. It's not just about what you do, but like you have to change the way that you think about it in order for it to really stick. And
Yes.
this applies to any sort of habit in life, essentially. But
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Um, So I also want to bring up another thing where it's like,
Hmm.
well, because like we were earlier talking about how like when you see other people's like accounts, like they're only posting like a certain like aspect of their life. So and also I want to bring up that like um, when because of social media, you kind of have like this. You kind of feel that like you have to post every single thing that you make, and like I feel like at times it's like sometimes when you're drawing something, like I look at it and I think like, am I drawing this for myself or like for people to consume? Like, is this, am I drawing this just for like the people who follow me? Like, and like I feel like that with a lot of my art now. Like, and I sometimes it's like good to like just draw for yourself now and again and just like don't
Hmm.
post it up anywhere. It's just for yourself. And like cuz like when I do post things like make work that's like supposed to, like that's seen online, then I wonder
Hmm.
like, am I, is this like a true reflection of my abilities? Is
Mm.
this a true reflection of like the ideas that I have, or am I kind of catering it to a certain audience and like making it in a way that's like trying to get me more, I guess, popular?
Oh my God, I
Does it?
love what you're saying today. Oh my God. Oh my God, I love it. No, that's so true. Like as you were describing that, I'm like, oh my God, I've definitely like felt myself in that position,
Hmm.
many times in the past.
Hmm.
Yeah, just like it can be very easy to like fall into that habit of creating solely for others, right?
Hmm.
And creating what you think others expect you
Yeah.
to make, or like what you should make, or
Hmm.
something like that. And okay, let me just make this clear. If that's something that you want to do, then more
Yeah.
power to you, right?
Hmm.
I'm not saying that that's good or bad, but like personally, like what I value, and by what you're saying, Anusha, I'm guessing that you value this too,
Hmm.
is that you create first and foremost, for yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like this artwork is like a form of self-expression, and it's important for you to like create work that is meaningful to you,
Hmm.
right? Not just for the sake of creating a product for other people
Yeah.
to consume, right? It's so much more than that.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Because like it's especially true for like when you're drawing fan art. Like I've had like situations in the past where I'm like, oh, I want to draw some fan art. Should I draw this thing which I really like, but it's obscure and like no one
Mm,
would get where it's from, or should I draw this other thing which I like, but it's like, and it's like a super popular fandom, like which
hmm.
is gonna kind of not exactly benefit me more, but like would be more accepted,
Hmm.
and I'll
Right,
usually end
right.
up drawing the thing that's gonna like get me more attention, which I feel
Hmm.
really sad about. But like, I've just gotten really sucked into like the whole brand image and like,
Hmm.
stuff like that. And I'm definitely gonna try to like focus more on like drawing stuff for myself in the future, just because like, um, that's like a way of like, kind of like how I would grow and like how I would express myself. If I'm
Mm,
not like concentrating too much on like what other people are wanting, because then like it's kind of like when I'm creating artwork for clients, then I'm adjusting and like keeping a certain audience in mind. Like this is for like the middle grade, whatever age, or like for this type of people, or if it's like going to be seen by this, so like adjust it in a way so it's not really my vision. It's like more of like
hmm.
what they kind of want, and like that's fine for like client work. But if I'm doing it also for my personal work, then like when am I going to have like the opportunity to draw what I'm really feeling?
Yeah, no, exactly. And like, I mean, this just sort of like comes down to personal values in a way
Mm-hmm.
as well. And like, if you value sort of like self-exploration and putting yourself, first and foremost in a lot of things, just because like you're the one who's living your life, so it's like important that you focus on like your wants and your needs,
Mm-hmm.
then like it's probably is in your best idea to like find a way to balance those like two different parts, and
Right.
like sort of like who you create for and like why you're creating. And I know that those questions aren't necessarily pertinent to everyone. I'm not saying that they should be, but
Mm-hmm.
like if you find yourself, sort of like having those kind of questions, then it's like, yeah, maybe it's worth it to take some time to consider how that factors into your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. I also wanted to mention, um, again with social media, because you're constantly bombarded with like other people's artwork and their feeds and stuff. You kind of feel like you have to be drawing constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Because like sometimes you figure out this is not all one person. I mean, sometimes you do have that one person who's just like churning out artwork every single day, and like I
Mm-hmm.
don't even know how they do it. But like then you have like but then like you have for the most part people are not drawing it all day, but then you kind of, because like you're constantly seeing like an entire feed of people's artwork, you kind of
Yeah.
feel like you and but you don't need to, because like I mean like as like we have mentioned that like you should draw every day, or like well not necessarily every day, but like that's how you're going to get better and stuff, but like
Mm-hmm.
there is a certain point where like you should not overwork yourself, or like kind of treat your skill as like a factory where like you're just trying to like draw like every day in like a assembly line and like just get it out, and like
Mm-hmm.
so it becomes more like a chore than like actual like it kind of becomes
You could burn out.
like yeah, you could burn out. It's totally fine if you're not posting consistently, because like
Mm-hmm.
I know we did mention that like if you're posting to social media, you should be consistent in terms of like if you want to grow your
Right.
following, but for
Right.
yourself, you shouldn't. It's okay if you don't like post regularly. Um,
Yeah.
and like there are a lot of, you should also keep in mind that a lot of people don't, and like they can go for like months without posting something new because of like
Mm-hmm.
NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, which forbid you from posting work for clients. Like there's a lot of work I would love to show you guys, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm contractually required to keep my mouth shut.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I do feel really sad because like there's so much stuff which I'm drawing constantly, but I just can't
Mm-hmm.
share any of it. And so then I'm like, oh, it looks like I'm not doing anything. And like then I kind of
Mm-hmm.
like feel like, okay, I have to make something just so people know I'm alive, and like but like
Oh.
but then like that kind of just causes burnout for me. But like you should keep in mind that
Right.
like it's okay if like you're not posting all the time, because like some things get in the way,
Mm-hmm.
as long as you are I don't have an endpoint to it. This is happening a lot today, but
It's funny because I was just about to add, but like, isn't it awesome that you have this work, that you're working on so
exactly.
intensely that you almost, don't have time to like
Hmm.
contribute in a different kind of way because you're working so intently on this, specific thing.
Hmm.
And like that is really cool.
Yeah.
And just because you don't get to share that, with social media, it doesn't erase its importance.
Hmm.
It's
Right.
it's incredible that you're getting to work on
Hmm.
this. And
Exactly.
that's awesome. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So just, like I think our overall sort of like message today is to like proceed at your own pace with these kind of things,
Hmm.
right? And to remember to be kind to yourself because like ultimately the way that you think about these kind of situations is going to determine how you act
Hmm. Right.
and the sort of direction that you take with your life. And just to keep in mind that if you want to be a certain type of person, or I shouldn't say it like that, but if you want to do certain things, right, just remember that like in general, it's good to encourage others and to lift others up and to not close yourself off to other people and
Yeah.
opportunities, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess we're almost done. I feel like what we could do is like, um, now that we've given like our whole thoughts and opinions on social media, we could give like kind of like a how-to guide of like how to succeed in social media in a healthy way.
All right, let's do it. Yeah.
So, okay. So, you've made your social media account, you're on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram, whatever. I'm so happy for you for taking the first step and like putting your artwork out there. Now, your initial goal is that like, okay, so I'm posting this really great artwork and I kind of want other people to see it. And I want other people to connect. So the first thing is probably you're going to like, you're going to follow your friends and they're going to follow you back. I hope they do because they're your pals. And otherwise I would like message them and be like, hey buddy, why are you not following me? And like my sister's like, okay, fine, whatever. So you felt like your immediate like friends following you, but like you want more people to see it. So you also kind of want to make friends on this platform because it's like, oh, I'm an artist, but like I don't really know artists in my area. Maybe I'm not in art school or in like a job yet, and like I want to connect with more people like me. So first you start off with like you're making your artwork and you're tagging it. Maybe you're going through the tags, and like the tags that we mentioned like in the first episode would be something you could like post like Insta art or illustration and like specific things regarding to your artwork. And then you're like, I really like I really like children's illustration. And so you go through the tag for the children's illustration and you see other people's art. Maybe you follow them because you really like their art. And like you kind of like comment and be like, oh, I really like this picture because like you really like their art and you will kind of want to make friends. And then you get like a conversation going and now you've made your first friend. Congrats. So this kind of keeps growing where like you're making pals and you're making like you've kind of like have like 5 friends now, and hello, you've made a community of like people who like the same thing. And now you're like if you want to kind of like grow a little bit more. So there are certain things like, and okay, as we mentioned, like we don't want to be making things if you don't want to be making them, but like there are certain things we know that like get more popular than other things. One of these things being fan art, which is, and like in our first episode we talked about how like it's like an easy kind of like, it's like a way of expressing something you really like and stuff. So maybe you do that because like other people also like seeing that, and so that gets a little bit more traction. But at the same time, you're also drawing your original stuff. So like what happens is that people see the fan art and then they see your originals. Like they come for the fan art and then stay for the original stuff. And then you start doing some, you kind of also start you kind of join in on trends, I guess you could say, or like take advantage of them. So like it was Pi Day yesterday, 3.14, which is weird because like in America they kind of switch the month and day around. I don't get why they do that. No offense.
Oh, come on.
But yeah, so like maybe you might draw some artwork and it's like pie themed and you hashtag it Happy Pie Day, and then like people who are following the tag, they're gonna be like, oh, I know that. And then they'll come for that. Or like if you have like, if you're on Twitter and there's like a trending thing, like there is like the Oscars are going on, and like I know like a lot of people will draw like the people's outfits during the Oscars, and that gets a lot of traction. And again, you're not doing this because you have to. You're doing this because it's honestly it's kind of fun. Feel free to kick in anytime, Vicki.
Yeah, I want to, okay, 2 things I want to add. Yes. One, that like sort of, these are all really, really good things to keep in mind and to sort of like just like use and to exercise. But the most important thing is that you create your best work, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that is ultimately what's going to draw people in. Yes. I mean, you can do all of these steps, but if you're not, like really putting your best self forward, then it's like you need to try, right? You need to try. So, like make the best art that you can and, follow these steps and like, maybe you'll start seeing some like things happening.
Yeah.
And then another thing is that...
Wait, can I just add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would say quality control is a good tip, just because like when people are seeing your feed and stuff, like it's it's a lot easier. It's a little bit more appealing to see a page of like your best work than like a bunch of like your sketches and like your some mediocre work. It's like the same when like you're putting up your portfolio. I mean,
Hmm.
totally you can put up your sketches and things, but like it is nice to have a little bit of quality control. That's why I really
Exactly.
like Instagram's new Instagram story feature because that's where I
Hmm.
can post all of like my work in progresses and my garbage and like, and then I can keep my actual feed really clean.
Yeah, so, if you're the type of person who really likes to post, like Anusha said, like works in progress or just sort of like random things, like you could, try out Instagram and like see if that platform, works really well for you.
Hmm.
But yeah, just in general, like try to post, like stuff that you're proud of, like
Hmm.
stuff that you would like to see as well, right?
Yeah.
Make yourself proud. That's important.
Yeah.
And then in regards to sort of like the hashtags, like drawing things that are really popular, I would suggest that the sweet spot is to find something that's really popular and something that you really enjoy
Hmm.
as well, right? Trust me, there are plenty of popular things in this world, but if you were to try and draw every single one of them, it's like you kind of lose focus and you're
Yeah.
like, who am I? So, yeah, just try to like think about like, what do I like? And like, does that coincide with anything that's, really popular right now? And then you can go from there and genuinely, like create work that you're really interested in.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
and other people will see that too, right? And
Hmm.
they'll be like, "Oh man, this is so cool." And then
Yeah.
like, there you go. There's your little in right
Yeah.
there.
One of the artists I know, her name is Kiana Mai, and like she's
Hmm.
kind of known for just like drawing a ton of like Pokemon like Team Rocket fan art. Like
Hmm.
she's like really obsessed with it, and a lot of people are because like she's kind of found her niche where like this is something that she really enjoys and she's always creating fan art for it, but like it turns out other people are really into it as well, and like she's created this
Hmm.
little niche and like she has gotten a lot of popularity over it, and like
Hmm.
that's like a way to like make your little obsession into something that's kind of not profitable and like if we're talking about in terms of like likes and followers.
Hmm. Hmm. No, yeah, yeah. It's important to sort of like, like you said, you can sometimes like be able to build a community around it
Mm-hmm.
as well, and like that's when it gets like really fun, right?
Yeah.
Because then you're just creating things that you love and sharing it with people who really like that thing as well, and
Mm-hmm.
it's fun.
Yeah.
It can be very fun,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then you have things like challenges as well, because like there are certain
Ah,
ones that
yeah.
are on Twitter and Instagram that happen on a yearly basis. Like you have something called um, Inktober, which happens
Hmm.
in October, where like every day you draw something in ink, and that
Hmm.
is like a huge hashtag, and like people are sharing it, and it becomes like a big community event.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, another one that's coming up that I really like to participate in is Mermaid, where
Yes.
you just get to draw mermaids for the entire month of May, and
Hmm.
it's really great fun. You get to see everybody's
Yeah.
interpretations, of what mermaids are. And it's so neat. It's
Hmm.
really cool.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There are a lot of things like that, and like
Yeah,
there's
yeah, there's
also
tons.
there was a group called like Character Design
Mm-hmm.
Challenge where like they every month they have like a different theme, and then everyone like maybe the theme of the month is like the circus, and then
Mm-hmm.
everyone would contribute like one drawing that's related to like a character design drawing of like someone from the circus at the end of the month. Like you would um, they would pick like their favorite, which I don't really like. That's kind of like a competition, but it is like a way
Right,
to like
right.
challenge yourself and like try new things, and it's kind of like a community
Yeah.
event.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a lot of stuff out there like that, and I know there are so many like monthly challenges now these days. Like there's one for
Oh, yeah.
November called Huevember. There's the one right now is like Monster March, I think.
Oh, I didn't know about that
Yeah,
one.
I've seen some
Okay.
people doing it. It looks kind of fun. So,
Yeah.
and then there's like Witch Sona Week, where like which I feel like Witch Sona Week is like 4 times in the year. Like I feel like it always comes up, and that's basically you draw like a witch version of yourself.
It's like
So
one for each season.
yeah, and then you have challenges like that, and that's kind of like a way to get involved within like this little community. Then like you also have groups on Facebook, and I think
Mm.
where you have like a little mini club community, like where your little like-minded people can like share your artwork and stuff. I'm involved in one which is like for kidlit like female illustrators, and we just
Oh,
kind of like
nice.
talk about like, oh, what we're working on today, or what kind of like things that we can help each other out with. But there are also like huge ones, which there's one called Artist Alley International, and that is
Mm-hmm.
just like people who like tabling at conventions, and they just give each other advice, and like they answer questions if they have questions. That's like a very, and like they're always supporting each other, so that's something you can think about getting involved in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What else? What else?
We talk
Um,
about challenges.
um,
And...
there are hashtags sometimes of like on Twitter, like there was visible women earlier, where
Right,
like you
right,
can
yeah.
kind of promote yourself, and like and then you can also find new artists that way of like
Mm-hmm.
people within like a certain niche, or
Mm-hmm.
what else? What else?
On here, you have engaging followers. I think that's a really
Oh
big
yeah,
one.
yeah. Thank you, Vicky. So
Mm-hmm.
it's, while as important as it is to like be like posting your work, it's also important to engage with your audience. So like if they comment something, to respond back and like create some kind of conversation. So you are like
Yeah.
building
Mm-hmm.
that network and friendship, but also kind of like creating a more
It's like a
a
connection, you know?
connection. Yeah.
Yeah.
Instead of it being such like a one-sided thing.
Exactly. Yeah, it's really Twitter I find is especially nice for this, where you can like have conversations with a bunch of different people, and you just like get to know not only their art but also, like the person behind it as
Mm-hmm.
well. And
Yeah.
that can be a really fun experience. You can make new friends that way, and just sort of like broaden your circle,
Yeah.
and your experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I will use that in terms of like asking questions about like my art and stuff. So like if I'm like,
Hmm.
oh, I'm making some new merch, like which one do you like better? And like people, like that's a way of engaging your followers. They feel a bit more involved that way, and you also get an answer from that, because like now you know this is gonna sell
Hmm.
more. Or like you just have like you're working on something and you're like, oh, I don't know, like this doesn't feel right to me, like what color do you think looks better for this background? Then like they can chime in, so it's like a, feels like a bit of a kind of like a studio environment, where like
Hmm.
you're getting some feedback from like other people, including your friends and like other like-minded people.
Hmm. Yeah, and while you can do that, like with your followers, you can also engage in other people's stuff and any questions they may have, any like artwork that they post, just sort of like you give and you take, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's nice to receive, but it's also really nice to contribute
Yeah.
as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you come across something and you think it's dope, then tell that
Yeah.
person. People would love to hear. People work hard on their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and just like drop love whenever you can.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Okay. Though, not to
Mm,
be like a negative Nancy, I
let's
do
hear
want to
it.
say that like with social media, there is like a large concern of boundaries, where
Okay,
like
yeah.
you're kind of like, because you're kind of like all on one platform, and like there's no real sense of like, it's like very public, you kind of
Mm-hmm.
forget that there are like certain um what's the word, um
Talk about boundaries.
boundaries, when you're like politeness rules. That's like the only word I can think of. Like etiquette.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Etiquette. That's the word.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, yeah,
There's like a certain etiquette
yeah.
involved. And so like, don't be mean on the internet. If people did not ask for
Mm-hmm.
critique, don't give it. Don't like look at
Yeah.
someone's art and be like, oh, this looks just like this, or like, oh, you drew the hand weird, unless they asked for it.
Yeah, don't be needlessly mean, and if people aren't asking for like criticism, then it's not really your place to
Yeah.
give it either, right?
Yeah.
And
And like,
don't be creepy.
yeah,
Don't
don't
be
be
creepy.
creepy. Like if you feel like as I know, like you like we said that it's important to make friends and stuff, but like sometimes like people don't want it, and like if you feel like there's like a very one-sided thing going on, don't push it. Or like
Mhm.
first of all, like start off like being a little bit more natural. Don't be like one of those people who like slides into DMs and be like, hey, can we be friends? Like, no, like that's not how it works. Like you don't like go up to someone in real life and be like, hey, can we be friends? It's like a very natural progression. Like you it's like slow, and like you have like little conversations, and you feel like they're not responding, then like maybe you should take that as a sign that like they don't want to, and like you move on with your life.
Exactly. And there's plenty of other people, and we are sure that you'll find, sort of like your group or like somebody else, that you can really connect with.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, I think that's so funny how you said like, you wouldn't just like do that in real life and
Yeah.
like go up to somebody. Like that's so true because when we're on the internet, all those rules like they can sometimes just go out the window and
Hmm.
like maybe you say like random shit that you wouldn't say normally.
Yeah.
It's just like that's good to keep in mind,
Hmm.
like you wouldn't just do that.
Yeah.
So like maybe you can hold back in certain
Hmm.
situations as
Yeah.
well.
Like
Yeah.
there's sometimes the temptation of being like overly familiar with like
Hmm.
strangers just because like they might feel they're really over they're like really comfortable when like really chill when they're like tweeting, but like
Hmm.
that's not okay. Like if you don't assume that like they would like it if like you are immediately like that to them. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Um, but yeah, the other thing I would say is that like don't feel discouraged. Like I would
Oh
say that
yeah.
like for me, I feel like the getting to like the first 1,000 followers was like the biggest
Hmm.
hurdle, and after that it was kind of like exponential.
Hmm. Hmm.
At least in my opinion, in my experience.
Right, right. And we're sure it'll differ, for
Yes.
everybody. But definitely, like I still remember when I had first started posting my artwork online, and let me tell you, many of those things did not get any sort of recognition. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
that feeling is still very familiar to me. I would sell things in my store, and granted, like it wasn't as professional as, like what I do now. So like I would have store openings and nothing would sell. But you know what? That's okay. I kept on moving on
Mm-hmm.
anyway,
Yeah.
like you there are times when you gotta like help yourself out and be like, you know what? It's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay that this didn't get any notes or anything like that, or nobody commented on it. Just like at the end, you're not making this for other people. You do this because you enjoy it. To
Yeah.
some degree. I would hope, I would guess,
Mm-hmm.
right? You don't want to just like needlessly put yourself through this. I mean, like in general, we choose, the problems sometimes. Okay, I don't want to like paint with a broad brush here, but like when it comes to artwork, right? It's difficult, right? Like any sort of industry, it's difficult to get into. But if it's something that you enjoy, then you will be able to find, sort of that energy and that motivation to continue pushing yourself forward. Even when you have failures or even when things don't go the way that you expect them to, you can encourage yourself
Mm-hmm.
to move on despite it, right? And to
Right.
just keep on creating.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. And my last point would be that it's okay to take a break. It's okay
Oh,
to just go on
God.
hiatus. If you feel like
Yeah.
you're getting stressed out by all of this, that there's like, because there's just like a constant stream of like information and like interactions. And when you're on Twitter, then like you're constantly seeing the news as well, and that gets like really overwhelming.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
okay if you're like, hey, I want to take a little break for like a week or like some months. That's fine. Just log off. It's just an app. Just delete it.
I know, right? I think it's really easy to get like sort of sucked into social media and think that it's like everything
Mm-hmm.
and think that it's life and that if you leave it then you're like disconnected from everything for eternity. But like that's not true. There's this sounds so oh my God, this sounds so silly. There's a life outside social
Mm-hmm.
media. I sound like an infomercial. But
Yep.
like you gotta live your life too, right? And
Mm-hmm.
like that's the only way that you will be able to contribute like meaningful experiences and to create work that
Mm-hmm.
that you can enjoy and that other people can enjoy as well. You need to live your own life. So like definitely like it's important to take time for yourself and to just, foster those relationships that you have, with your family or your friends, and to just go out and, have new experiences and to just be a person.
Yeah.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Be a human.
Be a human. Okay. So, now, like I think we've covered social media pretty well. Oh, I totally forgot. There's one last thing. I'm sorry.
Okay.
You
Yeah, yeah.
concluded it so nicely, but I have one more thing to add. I should not have talked smack about LinkedIn. Um, I like yesterday, I like went on it again, and I was like, oh, I might as well like see what's on it, and I like started using it, and then it's actually I feel like it has some potential because there are quite a few people on it, especially talent recruiters, and like if you want a way to like connect with people who have like the capabilities of like hiring, that's pretty helpful. Or like if you're one of the people who are like, okay, I'm an illustrator and I want to get my work to be seen by art directors, and like you can find them on LinkedIn if you do some digging, and like you can like email them from there. Which I mean, like, while keeping in mind boundaries, of course. But that was pretty helpful, and I think that I'm sorry, LinkedIn. There's something there, I think.
The relationship has been mended.
Yeah. Okay. Now for our final segment, because I'm trying to bring this back. At the end of every episode, like I wanna, or at least we wanna, talk about a shout out of the week, something that we really liked, either like a new artist or like just something cool that we like that we want to share. So go ahead, Vicki. I'm gonna put the pressure on you.
Let's do this. So I have learned about this new show on Netflix. It's called Hyori's Bed and Breakfast, and it's about this singer who used to be who is really popular in Korea, and now what she's doing with her career is to open her own bed and breakfast with her husband, and it's just this really relaxing show. It's just really chill. And I like chill things, and it's really nice because you get to see the relationships that she builds with like the people who come and stay at her home, and how like these conversations that you have, you know, with like strangers, right, with people who you have never even met before, can become very meaningful in a kind of way. And it is very slow paced, and it is very sort of like, I guess some people may call it uneventful, but it's very like everyday kind of like slice of life kind of deal. And it's just really relaxing, and it's nice getting to see, you know, people from different walks of life interacting, and it's cute. And if you like that sort of thing, I would highly recommend you check it out.
Is it a Korean drama?
It's I use the term reality TV.
Or like, I mean, like, is it do they speak in Korean?
Yeah, okay, it's a Korean show. Okay. Yeah, but it's got subtitles. So
okay, like, all right, yeah. I'm just making that clear. Okay, so that sounds really cute. I'll give that a go.
Yes. And what's your thing?
So my thing is I started binge listening to a new podcast. So this has been around for a while, but I just started listening to it. It's called Sawbones. And if you like the McElboys, it's got Justin McElroy and his wife, and so he's a comedian, or like, and he does other stuff, but like he's like the funny guy, and his wife is a doctor, and so every week they cover like they basically talk about medical history. And I've learned so much about it, but it's like a funny show. And so every week they talk about like some different thing. Like they could talk about like wrinkles or sinuses, or like the history of like one particular doctor. And like they'll cover like the entire history from like way back when until like recently, and how we were so stupid back then. Like we did some really crazy things. It's like, oh, we don't know what this does, let's try this. Or like yeah, we were really bad. So it's pretty funny, and you learn a lot, and like, yeah, it's just really interesting. And I would highly recommend it.
That sounds really cool. Oh, I'd love to learn more about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think that's
good recommendations.
Okay, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful day. And bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to The Art Corner. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at The Art Corner Pod, or send us any questions or comments at theartcornerpodcast@gmail.com. You can find all of our episodes on workbook.com/artcorner.
Our theme music was made by the amazing Louis Zong, and you can follow him at Everyday Louis. Thank you to our social media manager, Megan Stump. You can follow her on Instagram at Megan T. Stump. You can also follow Anoosha on Twitter at Foxville_art, and follow Vicki at Vicki Tsai. Please review and subscribe to our podcast. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks again, and see you next time.